following year, and staff is requesting the approval of this report as presented.
Ben, this is not appropriate for this report, but the thought just occurred to me today. Once they start the widening process of 390, you'd have to shut down a lot of those businesses. Mm-hmm. Will we not suffer a loss in the CRA funds for a little while?
Yes, we will. Essentially, the widening of Highway 390 will take properties off the tax roll. So right. We're losing taxable value.
Mr. Jenkins, what you want to comment? Didn't we just get our first reload application today or yesterday?
Yes, we just a couple of months ago, if you recall, the City Commission and the CRA board approved the commercial incentive for businesses that have to relocate because of the widening of Highway 390. And I just received my first application a few days ago, and I'm hoping to present this to the CRA board for approval at the next CRA board meeting. In this particular case, this business was located just north of 17th Street on 390, and they were able to find a new home in Lynn Haven on Highway 390 on the east side. So they're staying in Lynn Haven, really excited about it.
Mayor, if I may?
Sure.
I'd like to make a comment. Hey, great job as usual. Thank you very much for putting all this together. And I just wanted to say, I know you and I have talked about this, but with an ending balance and such, we talked about, I would just like for us to at least entertain when we have these projects like ACE, and I know we have some more that are eventually going to come down, mm-hmm. Awarding a larger sum. If it's warranted and it goes through the application process and stuff. I would like for us to utilize these funds as much as possible for, those type, and I know you and I talked about ACE, for instance, or I think Sammy's may make application at some point. So anyway, that's just, you guys are doing a fantastic job, but I want to maximize the use of these funds if we can to
sure, absolutely.
The intended purposes. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board or questions? Any comments or questions from the public? Yes, Mr. Walker.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I don't want to go over CRA 101 again, but back in 2002, when this was started, citizens were fed a lot of fluff to get this off the ground. And it did get off the ground. And for 10 years, we weren't allowed to spend any money in that CRA, so we could build up what we would call the principle of a matter. Once the principle was achieved, then we could start living off or using for projects the interest, et cetera, et cetera. The cap was set at $1 million by the previous city manager. He shouldn't have had anything to say with it because the CRA is not under his prerogative. However, the people went along with this. We finally hit $1 million, and then we started seeing projects done, which is good. But the projects weren't dealing with what the CRA was set up for. It did not deal with the old town, and that's what the CRA was about. That's the CRA area. That's this area that you declared decrepit and blighted, this building. I did not see any projects that dealt with the old town area. For example, recyclable water, the replacement of the infrastructure pipes from 1911, the persecution of Roberts Hall through the CRA. CRA contributed very little to Roberts Hall, but the CRA took 100% credit for doing it. What I'm saying here is now we're looking at this budget here, and you have $600,000 in there, and we're down. And your projects you have coming up, If you look at it, next year, this year is $400,000. You get from TIF, interest, and income to your CRA approximately, let me round it off to make it acceptable, $300,000. That you can use for your projects. What you're having here now, you've got a budget of over $400,000 for next year. You're going to be chopping away at that $600,000 principal. And then you're going to reduce your principal, you're going to reduce your escrow and what we've built over these 10, 15 years. Along with this, you're incorporating a new CRA area, which is a mistake. You should have it separate. And they're going to be tapping into your money. If you look at the budget of the new CRA area and the proposed there, it is not going to give you any money for 10 years. Where are you going to get the money for that CRA area? You're going to get it from here. Don't tell me you're not, because you already did. You've tapped it for $40,000. So, what I'm suggesting here is you seem to be going to be working at a deficit. And I would take a long look at any programs dealing with the new CRA, this CRA, just like Mr. Commissioner Friend just said there, to try and keep your principal where you're going to have to keep this thing going for another 15 years. You've just added more years to it. I would take a good look at your financial responsibilities here and the principal, what you earn, and what your projects are going to be.
Any comments from the board? Response? Mr. Walker, I appreciated many of the comments that you made, and we have some disagreement over part of it. We've talked about it before, but I do appreciate many of the comments that you said, and I would like to discuss some of that further after I have a chance to look at it, if you don't mind. Anyone else from the public have a comment that you'd like to make? Okay, at this time, we've had discussion from the board and the public. Mr. Schubert, we've had a motion. Would you please call the roll for approval of the CRA annual report for fiscal year 15-16?
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. So there's been approval of the CRA annual report, and thank you, Mr. Yankee, for preparing the report. Item number 4 is CRA Advisory Board comments. Do we have anyone from the board who would like to make comments? And I see we do. Thank you for being here. Would you please state your name and your position?
I'm Bill Hodgkins. I am your CRA Advisory Board Chair, and just wanted to provide you a quick update on what your advisory board has been up to. I would mention that Dan Russell's here. He's a member of the advisory board. And Rich, though he's not on the board, he's our first alternate in case we lose someone, and he attends all of our meetings and contributes as well, too. We've convened 3 times since, including our organizational meeting. Our last meeting is what I wanted to update you on. You retained a consultant to provide an update to the CRA plan, which is in draft now. Our last meeting was dedicated solely to reviewing that draft that the consultant provided. Under Ben's able guidance and direction, we slogged our way through a pretty lengthy document, and we made substantial recommendations for changes and or additions to that document. That was sent back to the consultant, who incorporated those changes and came back with what we felt is a very good document that will now be presented to you for your consideration and forwarding on to yourselves as the City Commission for approval. And we hope that this will happen soon. And of course, one of the major additions and changes in that CRA plan update is the addition of a 5th sub-area, which is the old Lynn Haven Fuel Depot. I would disagree a little bit with Mr. Walker in his position on the potential value of that fuel depot as an addition to the CRA. It certainly meets the conditions, and I think the advisory board as a whole feels that that was appropriate. We certainly looked at that and reviewed that in the draft CRA update, and I don't think anyone had an objection to doing that. And Mr. Walker is very correct in that it will be a while before you see the increase, but that will add significantly when you look at the life of our CRA, pushing our revenues in TIF projected out to close to $30 million now for the life of that. And so that's substantial money out front. I would also agree a little bit, I think, and speaking on behalf of the board, as it has been a subject with us, with Commissioner Fran, that obviously the purpose of raising the tax value is to get more TIF so we can spend it, or you can spend it, and increase tax value more, and hopefully perpetuate that way. And I think there were some who felt that perhaps our reserves, if that is what you want to call it, had gotten fairly significant, and I think Commissioner Friend has probably recognized that. In terms of how we budget and how we utilize those funds with regard to projected TIF, which is relatively stable right now, I think we can probably take a closer look from the board's perspective at how we budget and maybe utilize more of those funds than have been in the past to do more for the CRA and hopefully then increase the TIF that we'd see coming back. I'd ask if there's any questions. I think the advisory board's worked hard for you. It's a good group of people, and I think our major accomplishment is having slogged through the update to the CRA plan and hopefully got it in good shape for you to review it and then pass it on for approval. Yes, sir.
Are you all monitoring what's happening in Tallahassee? Because there's some rumbling over there that they're talking about making changes to CRA.
Other than just reading it as a concerned citizen, no, not any specific things, but no, I don't have enough knowledge to speak on that. I am aware of what you're saying, though.
I would just offer my thanks to you. We have not in the past gotten such a report. And I thank the other members, given the pay grade that you guys are set at on that board. It's nice to know that you're concerned and you're doing what you're doing for us. So my thanks.
I will say just for the record here that I had to tell Dan that I'm campaigning against him. We can't afford to lose him off our advisory board. And if he becomes a commissioner, we lose him.
I would like to also thank you for the work that all of the board members are putting in, and the report, that we have is because we haven't had this board before, and it's a good thing, and I think that you are making a positive impact with the CRA, and we look forward to future work, and again, thank you for all that you do as a volunteer. Okay, at this time, we're to item number 5, which is public commentary. If there's anything that anyone would like to speak to in regard to the Lynn Haven CRA, this would be your opportunity. Are you stretching, Mr. Walker, or are you raising your hand? Okay, come on up. Retired as of January 31st. I don't have that title
Former magistrate, former teacher. Thank you. As was suggested, I am one of the backups. My major concern is I've been with the CRA since day one, and my major concern is from the citizens aspect of this, and that's where I really want to make my point. Okay. I attended that, and I brought up some salient points, and we discussed it, but just for one example, I am personally dead set against setting up one CRA for 2 areas.
But we've already done that.
Yes, I know that.
It's done.
I know that. I know that.
Didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
I understand that. Basically because you can do it separate. You can have that one there and the other one there, managed by the same people, done. It's no problem. The one does not milk off the other. That's what I'm getting at. For example, in that little package of fluff and diamonds and whatever you want to call it that you already approved, it reminds me of a bill that was stated that you have to pass this to read it to find out what's in it. When you read it, one incident, what they're suggesting there is going to be you're going to put the CRA into debt. You're going to have to put a bond up. You're going to put the CRA into debt.
Could I interrupt one more time, and you can have extra time for what I'm interrupting? Which package of fluff and diamonds are we referring to? Because I'm
The
totally...
one that you said was passed, the reorganization.
Where the board voted to put the two together.
CRA.
Okay,
Second
I'm
CRA.
with you. Continue, and I'll give
That's
you
that
back your
package
time.
over there where you've declared that area a CRA under one of 27 incidences.
With you. Continue, sorry.
Okay. Down in the bottom of that package is a little thing that was devised a long time ago for when the property was, the fuel depot property was brought up. And that was when FSU took over. They did a traffic study on what FSU's maximum input would be to the roads in the area. There's only one road. Actually, there's no road. And that was 8,000 cars a day on the 40-acre FSU property. And FSU property is FSU property, not on the tax rolls. DCA was submitted a traffic study, and to do that, they would have to put in an $8 million roadway out of the fuel depot. That's in writing. DCA took a look at that and says, we can't impose that on the taxpayers. They shut that whole package down. Again, in the new fluff and diamond package, in the bottom of it, you will see an $8 million road. Who's going to pay for it? It's listed City of Lynn Haven, citizens, taxpayers, TIF, CRA. An $8 million road. Back again. I don't think the city CRA taxpayers should be burdened with an $8 million road. Yes, the developer has part of it, not all of it.
And we will have new tax revenues generated once,
Yeah.
once it becomes part of the...
Once you get there, but that's going to be a long way down the pipe.
But the road's not going to be built until it is, so...
Road has to be built first.
But not until it is incorporated as part of the city.
That's correct.
And at
That
that point, it will become part of our ad valorem.
That's a separate ballgame. You've got a lot of ifs that's going to happen here. If 390 is widened, if the annex, which the annex is going through, if DCA decides that the city use of property...
There's a lot to be discussed.
There's so many ifs here, yes. But see, you're doing it already ahead of schedule. It's in the package already. The annexation is in the package. It's been approved. You don't own it yet. Okay? The property hasn't been sold yet. That's not what I'm dealing with. You've already
Okay, take about 1 more minute. And
what you've got here is, in the future, you're looking at, and this has been discussed, is floating bonds for the CRA to get this done. And the CRA has never floated a bond yet, so far. I'm just a little bit...
I haven't discussed that, so I don't know who has. I haven't discussed floating a bond.
Yeah, right. But it's been mentioned.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you finish your thoughts, what you wanted to say? I didn't cut you off, because I interrupted you a couple of times with questions. Okay. Does anyone else have a comment or question? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to follow up on Commissioner Schatz's question regarding the proposed bill in Tallahassee right now to change the rules about
Yes.
CRAs. I just wanted to point out that I've been in close contact with the Florida Redevelopment Association in Tallahassee. They keep us up to date on any changes. They provide excellent summaries of what's going on. And I've been sharing this with the CRA board and also the advisory board to let them know what's going on. So if you want to get involved in this, and if you want to share your opinion about this, reach out to your elected official in Tallahassee and talk to them and express your thoughts and opinions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Jackson?
Don Jackson with Blue Water Development Partners. If all goes well, we'll be closing on the Fuel Depot property here in a few months and begin to develop it. I just want to share what I believe, some information that maybe the staff or the commissioners do not have, not in any particular order. I too saw the draft CRE report. My understanding it still is in draft forum. I met personally with Mr. Walker at his home about this. I've also had conversations both by email and by phone with Ben, your CRA director, on a couple things in that report. One of them I want to call out specifically. I too saw a line item. My understanding, part of the CRA process is you have to identify some potential and proposed capital items in a CRA report. That way, over the next years, as you're collecting the TIF, those are your items, your menu of the things you want to make improvement on. My understanding of how the CRA report works is you list what you believe you want to work on, and as the money comes in, you can work on those projects. If you want to work on something that's not mentioned in the report, you have to bring it back to the council and add it to the CRA. Specifically on there is a line item, approximately, I'm doing this from memory, $8.2 million for an access road. I asked specifically Ben about what that is. Ben seems to think that it's the road from the gate of the former fuel depot out to Highway 390, and that is the access road. He said that that information actually came from the consultant, not his office. We were never asked as a developer what we thought that access road might cost. It's a matter of public record that we have for years now have indicated as we develop out there, we may need to improve off-site roads. And one of those options of improving off-site roads, including improving 12th Street and Tennessee and some other roads, is possibly using the rail corridor from the gate to 390 and create another road. And we're calling it Marina Boulevard. I believe in the CRE report, that's what they're referencing it to, the access road. But I also believe it includes any and all off-site improvements to the roadways that might be impacted by this property or the properties within the CRA. So I've communicated to both Mr. Walker personally, face-to-face, and to Mr. Jenke that we at no time suggested that this road is going to cost $8.3 million. This road at Marina Boulevard, which would become an access road, is less than half a mile long, and I don't think anyone's going to spend $8 million for a road that's a half a mile long. I have already sent information to Mr. Jenke that needs to be changed in the draft report before it's finalized. I've also sent information to Mr. Jenke. Maybe some other items need to be added to the menu of items of public purpose improvements that potentially and possibly and should be done on the fuel depot property. And I say the fuel depot property because the expanded CRA, about 90% or 95% of that expansion is on the fuel depot, the Air Force property. There is some property outside of the Air Force property that's included in the expansion. Things like parkways, things like parks, things like public access to the water, things like boat ramps, things like extending the rails to trails onto our property and through our property and extend a boardwalk around on the shoreline. These are some of the things that we've suggested, and we've sent this by email to Mr. Jenke for consideration in the CRA report. There was one other item, but it escapes me now. And if I think of it, I'll come back.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Jackson or comments? Thank you so much for that information. Anyone else have anything else you'd like to say before I adjourn the CRA meeting? Okay, then this meeting stands adjourned at 5:28, and the regular City Commission meeting will begin at 6 p.m. Thank you.